The Salamanca Cousins are two of the most terrifying characters ever put on television, and they never said a word. Not because they couldn't, but because Vince Gilligan made a deliberate, calculated choice, and that choice turned two hitmen into something far more frightening than dialogue could ever make them. Today we're breaking down exactly why the Cousins didn't talk, what their silence does to the viewer, how it fits into Breaking Bad's visual storytelling, and why this might be one of the smartest character decisions in the entire show. Here's the thesis. The Cousins' silence is not a quirk. It is a weapon deployed to strip them of humanity and transform them into something closer to a force of nature than a pair of men. 5 reasons this decision works. By the end, I think you'll agree. The moment they spoke even one line, something would have been lost forever. Reason 1. Silence makes them inhuman. Every villain in Breaking Bad can be humanized through conversation. Gus Fring charms and deflects with words. Tuco rants and rages, which tells you exactly who he is. Even the cartel bosses negotiate around a table. The Cousins don't do any of that. They walk in, they wait, they execute. When you remove dialogue from a character, you remove the single most human thing about them. We understand people through language, their intentions, their fears, their logic. Take that away and what's left isn't a person anymore. It's a symbol. Marco and Lionel were never meant to feel like men with backstories you could empathize with. They were meant to feel like death walking toward you in a straight line. Silence is the biggest reason that works. Think about their first scene, crawling through the desert in their suits, leaving a silver dollar for Santa Muerte. Not a word, just the image, the ritual, and the sound of dirt under expensive shoes. Reason 2. They function as a visual device. Breaking Bad is a visual storytelling masterpiece. Gilligan uses color, composition, and camera angles to communicate what the script never says. The blue meth, Walt's color progression, the overhead shots. The Cousins fit directly into this visual language. They are a walking image, not a walking conversation. Their matching suits, their synchronized movement, the way they turn their heads at exactly the same moment, like one organism with 2 bodies. None of that works if one of them says, "We should take the highway, it's faster." Words would individuate them, and the moment you individuate them, you break the visual symmetry that makes them unsettling. The directors needed 2 figures, not 2 characters. Silence is what keeps them figures. Reason 3. Silence creates a different kind of dread. Most villains create tension through what they say. Hannibal Lecter is terrifying because of his words. Anton Chigurh, who the Cousins are clearly modeled on, becomes iconic through his coin flip monologue. But there is a different kind of fear, and it's arguably worse. The fear of something that doesn't explain itself. When a threat speaks, it becomes knowable. You can argue with it, reason with it. When a threat doesn't speak, it becomes unpredictable. You have no data. You cannot negotiate. You cannot appeal. That's exactly what the Cousins represent for Walter White. His greatest weapon, the intellect, manipulation, is completely useless against 2 men who won't engage with language at all. And we feel that every time they appear. Reason 4. It roots them in cartel mythology. The Cousins are not just hitmen. They are Salamanca enforcers operating under a specific code tied to loyalty, ritual, and sacred violence. Their Santa Muerte devotion is not decoration. It's the entire framework of who they are. In that framework, words are cheap. Words are for negotiation, for men who need to explain themselves. The Cousins don't explain themselves. They are instruments of a higher authority, and instruments don't speak. They function. Gilligan wanted the cousins to feel almost supernatural, and silence contributes massively to that. They appear, they move, they vanish. Even in their most personal moments, they communicate without language. That discipline, held across every scene, is what makes the mythology feel real. Reason 5. One word would have ruined everything. This is the one I keep coming back to. Imagine, and I know this is painful, that in Season 3, Episode 7, just before the parking lot ambush on Hank, one of the cousins says, "We're here." 2 words, completely normal for a hitman to say, and completely devastating to everything the show had built. Because the moment a cousin speaks, you assign them a voice. A voice means a personality. A personality means they are a person, not a symbol. And something you understand even slightly is something you fear slightly less. The directors knew this, which is why, when they needed the cousins to communicate, Marco doesn't call. He texts. One word, Hank. Removed as far from speech as possible while still being language. That's not an accident. It's the show protecting the mythology all the way to the final moment they appear together. And when Marco finally does speak, one word, barely audible, just before Hank kills him, it hits like a gut punch precisely because it's the only one. So, why didn't the Salamanca cousins talk? Because silence was the most powerful tool the directors had. It made them inhuman. It made them visual. It made them unpredictable. It rooted them in mythology rather than mere criminality. And it protected the dread around them right until the show was done with them. Gilligan has said great television is about showing, not telling. The cousins are the purest expression of that philosophy in all of Breaking Bad, a masterclass in what you can communicate by saying nothing at all. The scariest thing about them isn't the axe, or the silver dollar, or the matching suits. It's the fact that you never really knew what they were thinking, and you never will. And that is a genuinely rare thing in television. Characters who unsettle you, not through what they do, but through what they withhold. Most shows would have given the cousins a backstory episode, a moment of hesitation, a line of dialogue to make them feel rounded. Breaking Bad trusted its audience enough to never do that. And the audience repaid that trust by finding them unforgettable. Think about the characters from this show that have stayed with you. The ones you still think about. Chances are, it is not the ones who explain themselves the most. It is the ones who left gaps and let your imagination fill them. The cousins are the extreme version of that principle. Pure gap. Zero explanation. And somehow, because of that, completely impossible to forget. So here is the question I want to leave you with. Which character in Breaking Bad do you think the show understood best, and which one deserved more screen time than it got? Drop it in the comments.